Good evening, everybody. My name is Tomas Talamante, and I'm the Deputy Chief of Staff to Mayor Muriel Bowser. I'm very excited to welcome you to this evening's Budget Engagement Forum here at Roosevelt High School. We're very excited to hear about your budget priorities as Mayor Bowser prepares her FY20 budget proposal. Again this evening, and bienvenidos a todos. This evening we're going to be using a new tool called the Poll Everywhere tool, where you'll be able to engage with us from your seats. And for those residents that are watching us at home live, you can also participate by logging in to our Poll Everywhere tool, which is pollev.com/fairshot, or at your tables. We also have a QR code. So we're going to begin with our first question this evening. We want to know which ward you are visiting us from. So using your smartphone or tablet, you can select just by simply clicking on your ward. You can show us, as it's populating right behind me on the screen, we can see which wards are represented this evening. So again, if you would just begin by simply clicking the ward that you're visiting from. It's very exciting to see residents from all 8 wards participating this evening. Beautiful Roosevelt High School. Great, so it looks like a few more, we'll give you a few more seconds for, if you haven't selected your ward yet, if you please would. And it looks like, is Ward 4 in the house? Do we got some Ward 4 in the house? There we go. I think Ward 4 could be a little bit louder. What about Ward 1? Any Ward 1 residents in the house? There you go. Ward 2? Ward 3? What about Ward 4? Gonna give you one more time. There we go. What about Ward 5? Ward 6? Ward 7? And the great Ward 8. Great. Well, as you can see, we have residents participating from all 8 wards here in the room with us this evening, as well as at home or online. So we're excited for you all to be joining us and sharing your budget priorities with us this evening. We're going to go to our next question, which is, have you participated in a budget engagement forum before, or is this your first? So let us know. I know in the past 2 forums that we've held, majority of the participants have been first-time participants. So we're very excited to welcome you if this is your first budget engagement forum and hear about your budget priorities. So again, this question is just simply saying if you're a first-time participant or have been to a budget engagement forum before. And it looks like majority are first-time participants, so we're very excited to welcome you to this budget engagement forum and hear your priorities and issues and share with the mayor and her administration officials as they prepare the FY20 budget proposal and hear directly from you on what you want to see invested in. Next, we're going to go to one of my favorite questions, which is, what one word comes to mind when you think of DC's budget? So right now, you can, on your smartphone or your tablet, enter the one word that comes to mind when you think about DC's budget. It's always funny. The first word that always pops up is big. So we're seeing a lot of words pop up. As the word is entered more, the larger the word gets. So as you can see, some of the words are popping up more and more. So let us know, what is the one word that comes to mind when you think of DC's budget? We're seeing schools, seeing immigrants, complicated. I hope it'll be less complicated after this evening. We see growing, values, fair, equity. A lot of different words that are popping up on the screen as you think about DC's budget. And so I love this question because I think when when the mayor and our administration and they prepare the budget proposals, there's a lot of issues, a lot of priorities that get flagged up from residents across the district and as we hold these forums. And so as you can see, everybody has a different issue or priority, but this is what's so great is all of these issues, all these priorities come together and make up the budget proposal. And so this evening we look forward to getting more from you on what you want to see and hear from you on those issues. The next question we're going to go to is we want to know your budget priorities ranked from most important to least important. And so if is your issue, one of your issues that you're here for, housing, jobs and economic opportunity, education, health and human services, government operations, or public safety. So again, ranking them by most important to least important, even though they're all very important. Looks like housing is taking an early lead. We've had one issue at the top every forum, but I don't want to let you all know till we close the poll. So again, marking, this is there we go. All right, again, your most important issue to least important. Give it about 2 more seconds. Alrighty, so this is a first. The past 2 budget engagement forums, education was at the top. Tonight's forum, housing is at the top, and government operations has been at the last at every forum, and it's not last tonight. So keep in mind this poll, because we're going to come back to this poll, and you're going to hear directly from our deputy mayors who are in charge of the clusters and make sure that a lot of these, the programs related to these clusters are implemented and are funded, so you're going to hear directly from them a little bit more about what they do cluster by cluster and what is funded within their cluster budgets. But without further ado, I want to welcome up our amazing mayor, Mayor Muriel Bowser.
Well, hello, everybody. It's really great to see you all here at beautiful Roosevelt Senior High School, and we are very pleased to kick off this of the series, the final in the series of our budget engagement forums for this year. You've probably heard me say this before, but it bears repeating because we put a real premium on public engagement prior to finalizing our budget, which had not always been the case here in the district. Frequently, the mayors worked on the budget, talked to the agency directors, and submitted the budget to the council, and that's when the public engagement started. That never made a lot of sense to me when I was on the council, because when the mayor and agency directors are working on the budget, a lot of real big, immovable decisions have been made by the time that budget gets to the council. So in every one of my budgets in my first term, we had a series of forums like this. And we are very proud to start off the first year of my second term with these budget engagement forums. We first started with a telephone town hall that went to hundreds of seniors across the District of Columbia, and we had a discussion like this over the phone and with them watching Channel 16. We then had a telephone town hall with DC government employees. And I hope that you will join me in showing some appreciation for the 30,000 people who show up and work for us every day and do a fantastic job. And in that telephone town hall, I always find something new, some way to save, some way to make programs better, and some way to better engage our employees. So we completed that forum. And then we had our series of in-person forums, our first at Arthur Capper Community Center in Ward 6, then at Deanwood Community Center in Ward 7, and now we're here today at Roosevelt. We have a serious job ahead of us, and that is how to decide to use the $14 billion that taxpayers provide to us every single year to get the things done in the district that we need to get done that represent our values as a city and all the things that world-class cities need to have in place. Our budgeting process you saw the words that you put up, can be complicated. It's big. It starts early. Our agency directors have been working on ideas since November and working with the budget team and the city administrator to present a set of recommendations to me at the conclusion of our budget engagement process. And that takes a long time, and the issues are very important. But at the end of the day, our budgeting is similar to the budgeting that you do at home. We have a certain amount of resources that come in from our taxpayers, our property taxpayers, our income taxpayers, sales taxpayers. Largely, those are the sources of our local revenue. And then we have a set of things that we have to pay for each and every year. And we have the things that we've learned from the previous year that could work better if we change our investment. There are some things that we learned that didn't work at all, and we scrap those and move in a different direction. Each time we're making those decisions is so that the $14 billion that we have to spend affects the most people in ways that help them live a high quality of life right in the District of Columbia. We make investments that will allow our city to continue to grow and be safe so that generations of Washingtonians ahead of us will have the opportunity to live and raise their families in our city. We make decisions that will allow us to continue to be fiscally strong so that we're competitive in this region, this nation, and around the world. And we make investments so that our children and their children will have a clean, safe, healthy, and sustained city to live in. We're at a really critical time in our city because in a lot of ways, these are among our most prosperous times. And our growth and prosperity has also created a lot of challenges. High cost is our biggest challenge, and growing disparity. So I believe that we have just an incredible opportunity to build on the things that we were able to get done in our first term in fighting homelessness in our city and building more affordable housing, and ask ourselves the question, how can we do more faster for more people in Washington, D.C.? So as you grapple with these questions, and I know you will, and as you talk to your neighbors, and as you talk about the things that matter to you, they're going to tell you about the things that matter to them as well. And you may even be confronted with some of the trade-offs that my budget team has been confronted with throughout our budgeting process, and what the council will also face in the days ahead. But at the end of the day, we will have a balanced budget that represents our values and our best thinking about how to tackle the challenges ahead. So I will be here throughout. I will have the opportunity to walk around to tables. And at the end of the evening, we will also have the opportunity to hear from our tables. Now I'm going to ask members of my team to come up to talk to you a little bit more specifically about the process. But I did want to recognize that we've been joined by several agency directors, and I want to call them out. I saw the Chief of Police here, Peter Newsham, and he's in the back. I see the Director of our libraries, Rich Reyes-Gavlin. I see our Fire Chief, Gregory Dean, also in the back. I want to recognize our Chancellor of Schools, who I understand is here, Dr. Louis Farabee. We're also joined by my general counsel and also the Mayor's Office of Returning Citizens, the Mayor's Office of Community Affairs, as well as our ONE's Office, Disability Services, the DC Department of Health, and DC Motor Vehicles. So throughout the evening, we will be walking around to hear directly from you and your readouts at the end of the night. Now, our next presenters have been knee-deep in the budget, as I said, since November. You're going to hear from Jenny Reid, one of Ward 4 neighbor from the Mayor's Budget Office, and the City Administrator, Rashad Young, will follow her. The City Administrator's team includes Jenny's office, and they are responsible for making sure that their budget recommendations to me reflect all of the things that we've heard during budget engagement. So please join me in welcoming Jenny Reid.
All right, good evening, everyone. My name is Jenny Reid, and I have the pleasure of serving as the Mayor's Director of Budget and Performance Management. I'm going to talk to you about a few things this evening. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about some of the key investments we made in our FY19 budget. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about our budget process, a little bit about how big our budget is and where all those funds go. So let me start off with some of the highlights from our fiscal year 2019 budget, which is the fiscal year that we're in right now. One of the biggest investments that we've made is in education, and you can see that reflected in the $93 million increase that we provided to DC public schools and our charter schools in this current fiscal year, a $10 million increase to the child care subsidy to help provide more affordable child care throughout the city, and the introduction of a new $1,000 tax credit to help families with young children and high child care costs in the district. We've invested $1.3 billion over the next 6 years for modernizations of 26 elementary schools, 3 high schools, and 2 middle schools so that they can look just like this beautiful building that we're in here tonight. We've invested a lot in affordable housing, including funds for our Housing Production Trust Fund, which helps build and preserve low and moderate income housing in the district, $10 million for our Preservation Fund, funds to help seniors age in place, and additional funds to help move forward our Homeward DC plan, which makes homelessness rare, brief, and non-recurring. We've also invested in public safety, standing up our new Office of Neighborhood Safety and Engagement, and investing in funds that help fund violence prevention efforts and job training programs for some of our residents with biggest barriers. And lastly, we've invested heavily in our infrastructure and our community assets. We put down a new investment in our metro system so that together with our region, we can help get Metro back to a state of good. We've added $450 million for our roads, sidewalks, and alleys so that we can get rid of all of those assets in poor condition by 2021. And we've invested new funds for water bill relief to help both residents and nonprofits who are facing high water bill charges. So a little bit about our budget process. Our budget process is actually a year-round process for us. So as the mayor mentioned, we start our engagement in November. And during that process, we're working with agencies. We're getting their ideas for enhancements, for programs they want to see expanded. And we're also getting their ideas for where we might be able to reduce, where things aren't working. We then move to our community engagement, which is where we are right now, where we hear from all of you about what you want to see funded in the upcoming budget. We then take all of those ideas, we go back to the mayor and city administrator, and we put together the mayor's proposed budget, which we will deliver to the council this year on March 20th, and we will testify on in front of the council on March 22nd. The budget is then in the council's hands, and this is another opportunity for you to get involved. They hold hearings on every single agency's budget, and you're invited to come testify about the things that you see that you like in that budget. Once that budget is passed, it becomes enacted, and my team actually jumps back in where we start to look at how are the funds being spent. Are we standing up the new programs and services we promised you? Are they delivering on the results that we intended? And do we need to make any corrections? So let me talk to you a little bit about the DC budget fundamentals so you can understand a little bit about some of the trade-offs and options that you have tonight. Our budget is big, as the mayor mentioned. A lot of you wrote words like complex and gigantic and enormous, and that's true because we are actually a city, state, and county all in one. We perform all of those functions, and so as a result, we have a pretty big budget, $14.6 billion operating budget that helps fund our day-to-day activities and services, the programs that a lot of you are here to talk about this evening. That's broken down into a couple different buckets, about $10.5 billion of local funds, which includes our locally raised taxes, but also special purpose revenues like the fees and fines that you pay, and these help cover a lot of our core services. There's $3.5 billion in federal grants, payments, and Medicaid. A really large portion of that, about $2 billion, is for our Medicaid services. You'll hear later on this evening about how that's helped us really have excellent health care coverage here in the district. And then we have about $0.6 billion in dedicated taxes. These are things that go to support really specific purposes like the Housing Production Trust Fund. But in addition to this operating budget, we also have what's known as a capital budget. That capital budget helps build assets like this high school that we're in this evening. $1.7 billion is funded in FY19, and $8.2 billion is planned over the next 6 years to help us improve schools, recreation centers, libraries, help build and fix our roads, and other important investments. So where does that money go? Well, as you can see, the largest share of this funding goes to support our health and human services. These are programs like our Department of Human Services. There are programs like our Department of Healthcare Finance. This is where that big pot of Medicaid funding is that I mentioned a moment ago. We spend about $2.9 billion on enterprise financing and other. This is a pretty big category, but it does some pretty important stuff for us. For example, it helps pay our debt service on these capital programs and our bonds that are used to help create our beautiful facilities across the district. It's also where we help pay retirement costs, and then it's also where some of our funds get passed through for some of our quasi-governmental agencies like DC Water. $2.7 billion is spent on education. This includes funding for our DC public schools, our public charter schools, also our DC public libraries, parks and recreation, and our University of the District of Columbia. $1.8 billion is spent on government operations and public works. This includes the funding for the people that help pick up your trash and clear the snow. This is also funding for agencies like our Department of Human Resources that helps hire DC residents into DC government jobs. $1.4 billion is spent on public safety. This includes funding for the Metropolitan Police Department and Fire and Emergency Medical Services Department, but also funds for our Office of Unified Communications, who are the people that answer the phone when you call 911 or 311 and need some help. We spend about $400 million on housing. This includes things like our Housing Production Trust Fund, our Safe at Home program. It doesn't include all of the funds we spend on housing. There's other funds outside of this budget, like in the Housing Authority and other areas that actually grow this number much larger, but this is what's in our 14.6. And then we spend about $442 million on jobs and economic opportunity. This includes funds for our Department of Employment Services and Department of Small and Local Business Development. So now that you know a little bit about what's in the budget and where it goes, I'm going to turn it over to the city administrator, who's going to walk you through some more specifics on what we are investing in priorities in the FY19 budget. Thank you.
Thank you, Jenny, and good evening. I am Rashad Young, the City Administrator for the District of Columbia. $14 billion is a lot of money, and the mayor has organized our thinking around a set of priorities. And with your input, those priorities translate into investments, and I'm going to talk a little bit about what those priorities are and some more about what our investments have been. So the mayor's focused us on a number of goals to accelerate improvements in education, increasing our investments in supporting our seniors, expanding the reach of our health and human services agencies, strengthening public safety all across 8 wards and every community in the district, providing safe and efficient transportation, ensuring that there's access to jobs and economic opportunity, and making investments in our physical assets and infrastructure. So let's talk a bit about how these investments translate to specific programs. And you heard Jenny talk about the $2.7 billion we spend in education. About $1.7 billion of that supports 91,000 students in both our traditional schools and our public charter schools. We've spent $87 million in fiscal year 19 to support programs and services at the University of the District of Columbia. Nearly $62 million in library services, $41 million for parks. And we made a significant investment in this year for out-of-school time programming, and we've invested $19 million in those programs. Health and Human Services, where we spend $5 billion, $29.7 million of that has been to advance our strategy to end homelessness and make homelessness rare, brief, and non-recurring through the implementation of our Homeward DC plan. $7.4 million increase in school-based nursing and mental health services. And you heard Jenny talk about the $7 million that we've invested to help support, provide water bill relief to our residents and nonprofits. And then we've allocated $5.3 million to assist our seniors and low-income residents with heat and their energy bills. In the public safety space, where we spend $1.4 billion, we've made investments in what I like to call our non-law enforcement strategy. So there's $1.5 million for community-based grants to support violence interruption in our neighborhoods, another $575,000 to support programs that help at-risk individuals so that they won't commit additional crimes or be victims of violent crime. $500,000 for our security camera rebate program, $575,000 for additional lights all across the district so that we can make sure that we have lighting in our neighborhoods at night. $2.4 million to support the hiring of additional paramedics for the fire department, and $1.7 million to expand our cadet program in the police department so that we can have a pathway for district residents to be able to become Metropolitan Police Department officers. In the housing space, where we spend over $400 million, $100 million of that is for the Housing Production Trust Fund, and this is where we provide affordable housing and create affordable housing units across the district. $24 million to help families afford down payments for their first home, and $10 million to support the preservation of affordable housing so that we can keep already built units affordable across the district. Here we go. In the jobs and economic opportunity space, where we spend $442 million, we have a $33 million investment to support arts and cultural programming, $19 million so that more than 10,000 young people can participate in summer work in the Mayor Marion S. Berry Summer Youth Employment Program, $10.4 million for job training programs that target residents with barriers to employment, and another $6 million in programs that provide job opportunities for residents across the district. In the government operations space, $7.4 million for snow removal and ice removal. So all the crews and the trucks and the salt and the materials that go out in the snowstorm to make sure that people can drive our streets. Nearly $1 million to support our statehood campaign so the district can indeed become the 51st state in the union. And then $10.9 million for the demolition of DC General, as we were able to close DC General this year and move residents and families to more appropriate environments and housing. And we've been able to start to demolish that facility. And last but certainly not least, we've had a tremendous priority and focus on our seniors. The Safe at Home program allows our seniors to age in place and have adaptations to their homes so they can stay in their homes. Nearly $6 million for Transport DC that provides rides to our seniors so they can make their appointments and doctor's visits. And we've been able to cut in half how much a senior's property taxes can go up each year so that seniors will not experience more than a 5% increase in their property taxes. So there are a lot of priorities and programs and services that we provide in the district. These priorities have been focused on delivering good services and programs and support to all segments of our community each and every year. And so that's what you're here for today, to help us think about what we ought to be investing in and continuing for fiscal year 19. So let me turn it back over to Tomas.
Thank you so much to Director Reid and to our city administrator for the great overview of the district budget process. Now we're going to get to some fun, which is we're going to start our first pop quiz. So I told y'all, I hope that you're paying attention, because we have a pop quiz. There'll be some prizes at the end of the night, and I just want to thank the University of the District of Columbia, who gave us a free t-shirt for the #1 winner this evening. So whoever wins is going to get a great t-shirt from the University of the District of Columbia, but we have some other prizes as well. And so we're going to open it up, so giving you a few more seconds to get your phones or tablets geared up, and we're going to do DC Budget 101 and see who will be our top scorer. So we'll start with the first question, which is, what is the District of Columbia's fiscal year? Is it January 1st through December 31st, October 1st through September 30th, September 30th through October 1st, or June 1st through May 31st? You got a few more seconds to do that. So let's, again, which is our fiscal year? All right, it's going to be closing here shortly. All right, what is our fiscal year? The answer will pop up here shortly. 69% of y'all got it right. It is the October 1st to September 30th. And we're going to see the leaderboard pop up here. So Ashley, would you raise your hand, Ashley? You're in the lead right now. Oh, the back there? Great job, Ashley. Let's see if you hold on to the top. Our second question is, how much is in the district's FY19 operating budget for programs and services? 10.9 billion, 11.9 billion, 12.9 billion, or 14.6 billion? And again, this is day-to-day expenses, staff. Those are the types of costs covered in the operating budget. And we will see if Ashley back on the right is going to hold on to the top spot after this one. All right, great. 14.6 billion is the answer, and 77% of y'all got that right. Let's see if Ashley stays on the top. Ashley stays on the top right now. Great job, Ashley. So we're going to go to question number 3. How much is in the district's FY19 capital budget? So that's for programs and services again, 1.7 billion, 2.3 billion, 3.3 billion, or 4.3 billion. And again, this is the capital budget pays for things like the modernization of Roosevelt High School, which we're in right now. So what was that number in FY19? We'll see if Ashley's going to get a t-shirt by the end of this. A few more seconds here. 1.7 billion, so 46% of y'all got that one right. We'll see if Ashley got it right. Oh, Annie, who is Annie? Annie, raise your hand in the room. Oh, back here, Annie at table 26. She may be in the lead after the last question here. We'll go into our final question, which is, which of the following areas is allocated the largest percentage of the budget? Is it jobs and economic opportunity, education, health and human services, government operations, public safety, or housing? Again, which of these is the following areas allocated the largest percentage of the budget? Just a few more seconds on this one. And we'll see if Annie or Ashley. Health and human services is the correct answer, 59%. And our final leaderboard, Ashley comes back to get her top prize. Congratulations, Ashley. Please stand up, Ashley, so we can all see you back here. Great job. So Ashley's taking home the UDC shirt, but for anybody on the leaderboard up here, you're going to get tickets to a Nationals game. So if you can come over here to Fong over here on the right after the forum, and she will get you on the list for tickets. So Ashley and others, come claim your prizes. Now we're going to begin our next portion where we get to hear from you on what your budget priorities are for FY20. So at your tables with your facilitators, you're going to begin to discuss as a table, what are those budget priorities that you all have in common? What are some of the programs, issues that you want to see addressed in the FY20 budget? The mayor and our deputy mayors and administration officials will make the rounds, and we're going to hear from you directly on what you want to see invested in the FY20 budget. During this portion and a little bit later, we're also going to hear from our deputy mayors who will tell you a little bit more about what is funded within their clusters. And we're going to take that poll one more time about your budget priorities and see if, after hearing from the mayor and our deputy mayors, if any of your budget priorities have shifted after engaging in the budget engagement forum this evening. So we're going to be in that portion now. The mayor and our administration officials are going to make the round, and we'll come back here in a little bit. So thank you all so much for joining us, and we look forward to hearing about your budget priorities.
Don't presume to say, because we did already see some different.
To support the mental health services that we're trying to deliver in our schools.
For years, Mr. Bush, so that we can get our pension back. We was in our pensions up until about 3 or 4 years ago.
I apologize for interrupting the conversations. I'm going to keep myself, I was told to keep myself to 90 seconds or less, so bear with me. I'm the Deputy Mayor for Public Safety. My name is Kevin Donahue. Public Safety, if you were voting, came in dead last. Last 2 days ago, we came in 5th, and I talked, And after I talked, we sunk to last place. So I'm going to try something new now. So public safety, think of it two ways. One, if people cannot safely come, if people cannot feel safe walking out of their house, many of the things that you see above public safety are difficult to access because the barriers are real. And second, you have to think creatively as we do about what public safety is. So yes, we have police and fire, which I'll mention. We also have the Department of Youth Rehabilitation Services, which has led the country in restorative justice over the past 10 years. We have the Office of Neighborhood Safety and Engagement, whose director is sitting right over there. And they provide services specifically designed for individuals who are caught up in violence to prevent it. We also have reentry. Our DC jail opened 2 weeks ago something called the Ready Center. Thank you. The Ready Center has DC agencies who returning citizens need who will now be at the jail, including DMV, to provide ID right there before people get out. And going back to police and fire, we had a fire not far from here earlier today that was put out successfully because we had the equipment and the training for people to come quickly and put out the fire. And you have to remember, it was just a short while ago when we were running out of ambulances each day in the city, when we had so few officers on our police force that people had to run from call to call to call, particularly in Ward 7 and 8, which took away from community policing. And I'll close with, these are investments that, in order to really realize the benefits of the clusters on top, we have to make sure public safety is addressed. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Deputy Mayor. Next, we're going to hear from our Deputy Mayor of Health and Human Services, Wayne Turnage.
Good afternoon or good evening. In 90 seconds, the best way to summarize what we do in the cluster that represents the largest amount of spending in the district's budget is to think about three things. The first thing we do is attack homelessness. As you know, the mayor promised to close DC General, and she did. We are replacing it with short-term housing. We did in this past year. We established short-term housing units in 3 wards, and with your support, we intend to extend that in 3 more wards in this coming year. The other thing that we're doing is combining the investments in short-term housing with permanent supportive housing, and we also run a low-barrier shelters for single men and women. The impact of those things, if you look at the district's housing statistics, we have reduced family housing by 40% since this program started. That is the largest reduction that you will see in any jurisdiction across the country. We have reduced overall housing by 16%. The next thing you need to remember that we're doing is trying to improve the quality of life for the seniors in the city. If you think about, if you look at the research, it will tell you that seniors are aged with quality when they're allowed to do it at home and in their communities. How do you do that? Well, we spend about $200 million on personal care aides to help seniors who are in the Medicaid program stay in the home and they receive assistance with their activities of daily living. In addition, we fund adjustments or adaptations to their homes that will allow them to negotiate better and deal with the disabilities that would otherwise impact their ability to stay in the home. In sum, if you look at how many seniors we have that received adaptive equipment, so over 1,000 different seniors receive adaptive home equipment, and we serve over 5,000 seniors in the Medicaid program using personal care services. The last thing that I would ask you to think about in this cluster is the mayor's investment in the lives of children and families who really live at the economic margin. One of the real difficult problems in the city is the income and health care inequalities that you will see, especially when you look at Ward 8 compared to the rest of the city. These are punishing inequalities that have really adverse effects on the quality of lives of many of those residents. So what do? The mayor invests heavily in a program, a federal program that's designed to break the cycle of poverty. We put local money in it to prevent people from having to come off just as they're starting to earn an income. The mayor also puts significant dollars in our school-based mental health programs. And Most specifically, we spend about $3 billion on health care insurance for persons with low income. And when you combine that with the work of the exchange, the healthcare exchange, and the commercial insurance that they pay for, you will find that the district has a 98% coverage rate for healthcare insurance. It is the second highest in the country. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Before we go to our next Deputy Mayor, I want to acknowledge Ward 4 Councilmember Brandon Todd has joined us this evening. Welcome, Councilmember. Next, you'll hear from our Deputy Mayor for Education, Paul Kine.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Paul Kine, and I'm honored to serve as Mayor Bowser's Deputy Mayor for Education. And as you think about the complicated trade-offs that we're making this evening, and as you think about what you want to prioritize, I have a very simple question for you. Do you love children? Do you honor children? Do you think that Washington, D.C. can be a city, a premier city in the country for children to grow up in and become adults in and live happy, fulfilled lives? We in the education cluster believe that is true, and that is the journey that we are on and helping to lead. And we do that in three very specific ways. Firstly, we are trying to ensure that every single child is ready for school. Every 5-year-old in Washington, D.C. should arrive into kindergarten with the academic skills and school-appropriate behaviors that they need to be successful. That is the first area that we're focused on. Secondly, when children are in school, we want to make sure that they're actually ready to learn. And that means we have to provide the in-school and out-of-school resources to ensure that they are successful, including the mental health supports that children need for social and emotional development and their ongoing learning, including the out-of-school time funding to ensure they have rich experiences on the weekends and after school, including fabulous parks and recreation activities and facilities for their leisure time. We also, thirdly, need to ensure that our students, when they graduate, are ready for career. That means that they've got to be on 6 to 12 pathways during school time that ensure that they are integrating their academic development with job readiness and job skills where they want them. So for the education cluster, as you're thinking about your priorities, please think about those three things. Children are ready for school, children who are in school are ready to learn, and those who graduate are ready for career. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. We will now hear from our Deputy Mayor for Planning and Economic Development, Brian Kenner.
How's everybody doing? Let me ask that again. How's everybody doing? Good. Tonight, I'm going to appeal to your heads and your hearts. I represent two of the clusters up here, jobs and economic opportunity and housing. First, a few examples on jobs and economic opportunity. Maybe some of you all saw at the end of last year, the mayor signed into law one of the most aggressive environmental goals in the country. That's right. To make 100% of our utilities, public utilities that provide our energy, from renewable sources by 2032. It is a hell of a goal. It is something that is aggressive and big, but something that Washington, I know, is uniquely able as a city, a county, and a state to be able to do. Second, over the last 4 years, we have reduced the unemployment rate in the District of Columbia significantly, most significantly in Wards 7 and 8. It has taken investments to be able to do that. It's taken workforce training to be able to do that. And yet we know we have lots more room to go. We have additional investments that we need to be making in this upcoming budget with our Department of Employment Services, with our Department of Small and Local Business Development, because we know that small businesses employ local DC residents. So we have lots of work to do. The second part, housing. How many people like housing? Maybe some people were aware that in Washington, D.C., we have the largest per capita housing investment trust in the country. We spend more per person on affordable housing than any other place in the United States. We spend $100 million out of our Housing Production Trust Fund each year, locally funded, not feds, not anybody else, locally funded, to be able to make important affordable housing investments in the District of Columbia. We also have invested in preservation of affordable housing. We've invested in seniors housing. We've invested in permanent supportive housing. These are critical investments because we know that housing in DC is an issue. Frankly, I just came back from a few other cities on the West Coast. It's an issue there too. But we know in Washington, D.C., we have the ability to make significant progress where we want to. The heads part of my conversation, if you look at those two, 400 and roughly 400, it's about $842 million out of our $14 billion operating budget. That's about 1/18th of our budget. And this mayor has actually been responsible for increasing that number on the housing significantly. All I ask in my pitch is that you double our investments in housing and jobs and opportunity. The kinds of outcomes that you will see in our children and our families and the ability for people to be able to afford, work, and play in the District of Columbia will be sizable. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. And last but not least, we're going to hear from Victoria Wasmer, who's our Director of Agency Operations, and she'll talk a little bit about government operations and the investments there. So, Victoria?
Great, thank you, Tomas. So I have one of the jobs to talk about what I think is a basic set of services, which is how do we make things go? In this area of government operations, it has our transportation infrastructure, obviously a critical way for us to be able to get to work and to get to school. Not only that, it's the way that we clear our trash and the leaves and ensure that we can clear the snow and collect recyclables. In fact, the funding in this area of government operations is for the staffing, it's for the fleet, and it's also for the necessary contracts for us to be able to ensure that we can have a clean city, that we can have a city that's accessible. Another phenomena that we've had over the past 4 years, our Department of Human Resources was responsible for helping to recruit through job fairs and other means 15,000 DC residents into good-paying, secure DC government jobs. So that's a great phenomenon, and we want to keep that up. Likewise, tonight, many of you are using the free Wi-Fi. That free Wi-Fi is made available through DCNet. It's through investments that we have to continue because, of course, it's becoming more of a wired nation. Our OCTO budget is responsible for securing the DCNet infrastructure, and that's the way that we're going to ensure that we can keep you all powered to be connected through the ever-growing internet sets of services. Likewise, accessibility. Accessibility is a critical phenomena as we look at our municipal facilities, our schools, our parks, and our rec centers. We have funding in the government operations arena to both assess those facilities and then also ensure as we modernize facilities and build new facilities that they have the accessibility for people to be able to go through their daily living, and it's available for all DC residents. This is a really important and critical part of our government budget, and I really hope that you will support government operations. Thank you.
Thank you, Director. So now we're going to continue to talk amongst your tables and come together with what your budget priorities are as a table. Shortly, we'll begin calling on some tables to get some readouts. So facilitators in your group, designate one person that'll be responsible for reporting out your budget priorities that you want to share with the mayor. We're going to continue to make a few more rounds around with the mayor and the administration officials.
And we're asking for legal aid for DACA and temporary investment happening within social emotional learning and trauma.
Got one location and is looking to start another location. Those are the two models that we've been able to attract toward aid so far.
I got a special table to call on first. We're going to go with table 12. We have Monica and her son Tyson, who is celebrating his 4th birthday with us this evening. And so they're going to give us the first readout of the evening. And we're going to first say happy birthday to Tyson. Happy birthday, Tyson. All right, Monica's going to provide Table 12's budget priority.
My name is Monica. I'm a resident of Ward 4. And my budget priority is just the after-school funding time while the students aren't in schools. But we also had some immigration priorities at the table as well as housing.
Great. Well, thank you, Monica and Tyson. The mayor is going to get a picture with Monica and Tyson for his birthday. So if you all will just hold right here so the mayor can come grab a quick birthday photo with you. All righty. We're just going to do a quick photo and we'll continue on the budget priorities. All right. So again, which table wants to go next? Is it table? Okay. 4? Will it be table? Let's go with... I got to go to table 14 because they've been rocking and rolling, so they're ready to go.
I'm Reverend Maria Swearingen. I live in Ward 1 and serve at a congregation in Ward 2. And I'm here with the Washington Interfaith Network. And at our table, we talked a good bit about ensuring and shoring up funding, $2.5 million in particular, for our Immigrant Justice Legal Services Fund. To ensure that every immigrant in this city has adequate and necessary access to legal aid. And we're also asking that funding support detainees across the city as well. Because as we're facing a crisis of really epic proportions for our city, when 4,500 residents in this city are TPS holders and we have no idea what's about to happen to them in a matter of months, current TPS holders are potential future detainees. So it matters that we ensure their support as a city. So we're asking for $2.5 million. We also talked quite a bit about affordable housing and about shoring up funding across the city in every ward for affordable housing. We know we can do this. We know that we just heard that we are a prosperous city and that we have the funding to ensure that every resident in this city has the housing that they need.
Thank you, table 14. All right, which table will go next? I think table 4. Let's hear from table 4. Who is your designated? And again, your name and your ward.
Okay. We had a robust conversation. Oh, my name is Geoff County. I live in Ward 4. All right. But I grew up in Ward 8 and have a definite big love for east of the river. We had a robust conversation at our table about the priorities in the District of Columbia. Someone who is an educator like myself, one of the things that we know is the information that we get and the transparency that's needed coming from the District of Columbia Public Schools. You know, and I think we have I've heard some wrong-headed information here tonight, and we need to be clear about what we're doing with children in the District of Columbia. How to teach successfully is not brain scientists. We've had teachers who've been able to teach successfully in the District of Columbia for years. What we need to do is to reinvest in those teachers and stop using programs like the Broad Academy, where our deputy mayor came from. What we need to do is stop using places like Teach for America, which our superintendents have come from, and we need to get back to real educators who are going to work for the children of the District of Columbia. That's one of the things that we need to do. So we also talked about homelessness and the lack of money that's in the Housing Production Trust Fund, which is $100 million, which is not quite adequate for the $300 million that's needed so that we can end homelessness in the District of Columbia.
All right, let's go to our next table. Who is it going to be? Which table are we going on? I don't think I hear you all loud enough yet. I think table 18. Let's go to table 18 right there in front of you, Alan. Are you? Yeah, go ahead with that table. Table 22, is that who it is?
Hi, my name is Chris Williams. I'm in Ward 6. I'm looking at the mayor. Is that the idea? Okay, great. We challenged the paradigm. Housing is health. Health is housing. Public safety is health. And so what we called for was integrated services. And we also pitched it to the mayor as well. We need to invest in our communities in every aspect of their lives. And we had a lot of issue-specific concerns at our tables, from domestic violence to racial disparities to immigration to mental health and affordable housing. How can we approach all of these needs simultaneously? It is being done. There is now an intake form where you can gather, or a nonprofit based in New Jersey, where you can gather all of these needs using one form. We need a paradigm shift in Washington, D.C. Our health disparities, our educational disparities are too high for us to simply do business as usual. We need change. Thank you.
All right, let's call on the table next. We got some tables. Table 1. Table 1 up in the front. Yeah, let's go to table 1. He's coming.
Hi, my name is Chris Conway. I'm from Ward 6. First off, I want to thank the mayor and her staff for being here. We appreciate it. But the one thing that I'm here for, and I hope you can all join me in this, is can I get a round of applause for DC statehood? I think it's one of the main issues facing our city that we're not a state. We spend about, I think $1 million is allocated in the budget. Josh Birch, who works on DC statehood, wrote in the Washington Post recently that we would like to see that number raised to $5 million over 5 years because we want to get this done. We want to bring it home. So, thank you.
Thank you so much. And we will become the 51st state. Okay, we got 2 more. I think time for 2 more tables. All right, Alan, I'm going to you in the back. Alan, will you say your name? Alan, I'm going to you in the back. If you could come up so we can get you on camera. There you go.
Here. Hello. Are you calling? Okay. Hi, my name is Carola, and on our table, we talk about different priorities. The first one is on immigrations. A large number of our undocumented residents pay taxes. They contribute to our economy. They clean our houses. They prepare our coffees, in the coffee places. They help us. They need representation when they are detained by ISIS. Once they are detained, if they don't have legal representation, they are almost automatically deported. With legal representation, they have around an 85% of not being deported. And again, these are people that are paying taxes and they are part of our community. So we are asking to increase the budget for, let me read, to $2.5 million, which is not a lot compared to what other groups are asking. This will help for all the people that are detained and documented to have representation. I don't think that because people are undocumented should not have the same legal rights as any other Americans that pay taxes. The other priority that we also discuss on our table is related to housing. Our residents are aging, and the taxes are increasing, and the value of properties are also increasing, and they have to move out. So we need to make sure that residents that have been here for many, many years, they are able to stay, and they are able to age in their communities. The other priority is in education. The level of education, public education outside charter schools in the district is poor. We have one of the lowest SAT scores. We need to improve, and we need to give people the students what they deserve. To continue with the birth to 3 for all ages programs, and then also the other priority was safety.
All right, thank you so much. And I know we have time for one more, and we're going to call in right up here, table 10. So if you would, our last one, but we will have an opportunity to hear more.
Thank you. I'm representing Table 10. I'm Jane Hayashi Kim. Thank you. Ward 5. And we are asking for $30 million for birth to 3 for all. The council already passed this, so all we need is the money, and it's incredibly important that all children in the district have education right off the bat. Secondly, we're asking for $42 million. That would be enough to hire an average of 4 mental health professionals across 100 schools. And that would improve caseloads, it would improve teachers' experiences, and it would improve life for our students. Finally, we want to make sure that people with developmental disabilities here in the district have access to accessible and affordable housing, and that their caretakers are paid well. We're asking for $6.2 million for that, because if these jobs taking care of the most vulnerable people in our city are not good jobs with fair pay, people with training will not stay in those jobs, and we need those people desperately. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you all so much. Again, there will be an opportunity for you to share more of your budget priorities. So if you didn't get to share them directly, well, you shared amongst your tables, but we're going to show you how you can share it at the end. We're going to go to one more question before I call up the mayor. And now that you've heard from the various deputy mayors and you've heard about the various issues, we're going to just take a poll one more time on your budget priorities and see if those shifted at all after the great conversations with the fellow residents from all 8 wards. So we're going to pull that up real quick, do one more survey, and then we're going to hear from the mayor so that we can close out for this evening. So now we're going to see if your budget priorities changed or not. So if you'll open the Poll Everywhere tool so that we can take that poll real quick. You know, they're just getting that opened up. There we go. So if you all would, again, get on your Poll Everywhere tool, we're going to see ranking of most important to least important if that changed after discussion with residents. So we're going to see last time housing was at the top, and so we're going to see if anything changed from what you heard today from your fellow residents, the mayor, and administration officials, if anything switched or not here. Give a few more seconds, make sure everyone gets in. All right, so it looks like housing stayed the #1 priority, followed by education. There we go. So without further ado, I'm going to call the mayor back up, and who's going to close this out.
Well, thank you, everybody, for those great ideas. I got a chance to walk around to several tables. And what's clearly on every table that I went to's collective mind was making sure that we have robust protections for our immigrant neighbors. And we were very, very proud. I guess it's been 2 years now to start a program called Immigration Justice Grants, which we hadn't done in our city before. We had a very eager, experienced, and trusted network of nonprofits to work with us and to work with our immigrant neighbors to make sure that we could provide legal representation. I think we started with the first allotment at $500,000. We went up to $900,000, and we will be reviewing very carefully how we can make that program work for all DC residents. What I wanted to mention is that with our kind of unexpected occupant in the White House, our city has come together in so many ways to stand shoulder to shoulder and respect and protect each other. We also heard a lot about how all of our systems could work better together in the significant investments that we make. When Wayne, Deputy Mayor Turnage, talked to you earlier about $3 billion in healthcare costs, that's a lot of money for the 700,000 of us who live here. And yet we don't have the types of outcomes that we should have for that healthcare dollar. So how we make our systems work more effectively is also what we have to be focused on. And how we make sure that we don't have secret programs in our city. You know about secret programs? It's the programs that we pay a lot of money for and nobody knows about. And so how we do a better job of making sure that that information is out is also critically important to the work that we do. We heard a lot about mental health, didn't we? And I want you to be assured that my team, from public safety to human services, is very focused on the role trauma plays in our city, what it means for our public safety, what it means for our outcomes, and what it means for more Washingtonians to be on the right path. So we heard you loud and clear about how we can make sure people are getting the mental health supports that they need. Our young people, for sure, but many, many people are living in our city with trauma, and we want them to get the help that they need as well. You heard the call for statehood and what we're doing with that public education fund on statehood. We will continue to push very, very hard on that issue as well. So there were many things that we talked about, including, Councilmember, I talked about a bill that you have championed through the council. We talked about water bills and how we can make sure that housing, especially the housing that people already live in, can stay affordable. So that could be through property tax relief, water bill relief, safe at home funding, looking at utilities for everybody, homeowners and renters, how we can continue to make our city affordable is a range of options. And what I tried to do at each table is to let you know the kind of analysis that we go through each and every budget season and throughout the year to try to find the thing that's going to give the most benefit to the most people the fastest in our city and represents our values. That's what this budget process is about. Now, I started off by saying that this is the last of our 3 in-person forums. Guess which one was the biggest? This one. I started to feel bad because we ran out of tables, but then I see how comfortable and engaged everybody is right in front of us. So let me just thank you. I want to thank my budget team. We will be making our presentation mid-March, and we look forward to seeing you across all 8 wards. Thank you. Be safe, everybody.